Syrian rebels take control most of Aleppo city. U.S. petitioners withdraw investigation into China's alleged role in fentanyl trade. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Otto Othman and you're watching World Today. Now, Syrian rebels gain more ground around Aleppo, entering the towns of Menengah, Tel Rifat and Nubul as locals returned home after years of being displaced. Now, many of those returning to their homes found planted mines, which they say had prevented them from returning earlier, despite the towns being liberated. A rebel alliance launched a surprise attack this week, sweeping eastward towards villages outside the city and reigniting a conflict that had been largely static for years. It is the first time Syria rebels have set foot in Aleppo since government forces regained control during the civil war in 2016. Syria's defense ministry said dozens of soldiers have been killed in the Aleppo offensive. The rebel assault is the most intense fighting seen in northwestern Syria since 2020, when Russia and Turkey agreed to a deal to de-escalate the conflict after government forces seized areas previously controlled by opposition fighters. The government forces have been in control of Aleppo since 2016, nearly a year after Russia intervened in support of President Bashar al-Assad. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is alarmed by the escalation of violence in Syria and is calling for an immediate end to fighting. His spokesman, Stefanet Juracek, said the country has endured the conflict for nearly 14 years, and it is time that the Syrians deserve a political horizon that will deliver a peaceful future.
Tell you that the Secretary General is indeed alarmed by the recent escalation of violence across northwest Syria. He calls for an immediate cessation of hostilities, reminds all the parties of their obligation under international law, including international humanitarian law, and calls for an immediate return to the UN-facilitated political process in line with Security Council Resolution 2254.
Syria has been at war since President Bashar al-Assad cracked down on democracy protests in 2011, with subsequent fighting that has involved foreign powers and internal conflict, leaving some 500,000 people dead. The conflict had been mostly dormant, with Assad back in control of much of the country until last week, when the rebel alliance began its offensive. The United States called all countries to use their influence for de-escalation in Syria, where rebels backed by Turkey have launched a surprise offensive on Monday.
Ultimately, what we want to see is a political process forward where the Syrian people get to determine who their leaders are. As I said, United Nations Security Council Resolution 2254 called for such a process. We continue to call on all countries to use their influence to push forward that kind of political process that would lead to a path forward for the Syrian people, where the regime engages with opposition groups.
The United States, during the height of the war, said that President Bashar al-Assad, who is backed by Iran and Russia, had lost legitimacy, but it later said it was not a priority to remove him, seeing no better alternative in the rebels. Gaza-based health authorities said in a statement released on Monday, the Palestinian death toll from the ongoing Israeli attacks in the Gaza Strip has risen to 44,466, with a further 105,358 injured. Now, it added over the past 24 hours, Israeli military operation in Gaza led to 37 deaths and 108 injuries. According to Palestinian media reports, the Israeli army conducted airstrikes on several locations in the northern Gaza Strip that night, resulting in the deaths of at least 25 people. The Israeli army targeted multiple buildings in Jabalia, Beit Lahia, and Beit Hanun in the early hours of Monday. One of the strikes hit a shelter for displaced individuals in Beit Lahia, leading to the deaths of at least 15 people. Local Civil Protection Department mentioned that 3 hospitals in the area are nearly non-functional, hindering the treatment of those injured. A Palestinian TV report on Monday indicated that the Israeli army also conducted attacks in the Rafah area of the southern Gaza Strip, resulting in the deaths of 12 people. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, stressed the critical humanitarian situation in Gaza during a press briefing on Monday. She emphasized that they will continue to bring an end to this conflict and bring the remaining hostages home.
Can you give us some sort of update on?
I can tell you that those efforts are continuing to be made with the hopes that we can get to a resolution. And on the humanitarian situation, again, the situation is dire. We are not in any way playing down how dire the situation is, but we're also on the ground every single day working to find a solution, working to ensure that food and other necessary assistance is being delivered to the Palestinian people. And more needs to be done in that area, and we're going to continue to work on that.
She added the U.S. is also monitoring the situation in Lebanon closely to ensure the agreement on the ceasefire continues to be honored. Up next, at least 56 killed in stampede incident in Guinea football match. Stay tuned. A U.S. coalition calling in an investigation into China over its alleged role in the illicit fentanyl trade withdrawn their petition for now. Now, the petition, led by the group of families affected by the drug and advocacy organizations, urged for action to be taken to tackle unjustified and unreasonable practices of China and Chinese entities. The accusation was that illegal exports of fentanyl from the world's second biggest economy have devastated and continue to devastate American communities, citizens, and commerce. The synthetic opioid is more potent than heroin and much cheaper to produce. Washington has previously accused Beijing of turning a blind eye to the deadly fentanyl trade, with overdose deaths involving the drug estimated in the tens of thousands annually. Monday's pullback comes shortly after the president-elect Donald Trump vowed to impose additional tariffs on imports from China over Beijing's alleged role in the United States opioid epidemic. Although they have withdrawn the petition, which was dated 17th October, the coalition could refile it again at a later time.
But for your audience, what I worry about is exactly the problem. An elected official trying to respond to these problems would...
The United States announced new export restrictions Monday, targeting China's ability to make advanced semiconductors, drawing swift condemnation from Beijing as competition deepens between the world's 2 biggest economies. Now, the latest U.S. rules include a restriction of sales of 140 companies, including Chinese chip firms Biotech and Carrier, without additional permission. They also impact Naura Technology Group, which makes chip production equipment. Others include entities in Japan, South Korea, and Singapore. The new U.S. rules also include controls on 24 types of chip-making equipment and 3 kinds of software tools for developing or producing semiconductors. The move expands Washington's efforts to curb exports of state-of-the-art chips to China, which can be used in advanced weapons systems and in artificial intelligence. The announcement comes weeks before President-elect Donald Trump returns to the White House. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, in a statement, said Washington has taken significant steps to protect the technology from being used by adversaries. He added that Washington will keep working with allies and partners to proactively and aggressively safeguard their world-leading technologies. A stampede at a football match dedicated to Guinea's junta chief killed at least 56 people as the opposition accused the military-led authorities of being directly responsible for the tragedy. Prime Minister Amadou Al-Ribah said there would be 3 days of mourning, official mourning from Tuesday, adding that the national flags would also be held at half-mast. Fans at Sunday's game in the second city of Nzerekore invaded the pitch after 2 red cards and a controversial late penalty were awarded towards the end of a spirited encounter against visitors Labe. The violent events had initially been reported as clashes between fans. Officials watching the match, including 2 ministers, were prevented from leaving, prompting stone throwing and the firing of tear gas by security forces. Local media reported that hospital wards and a morgue were overwhelmed by the injured and dead. Duamboya said a commission of inquiry would be set up to rule on the causes of this tragedy and to determine who is responsible. The junta chief called for calm in the West African nation, which has a turbulent political history and remains poor despite considerable natural resources. The match in the southeastern city was the final of a cup tournament organized in honor of Duamboya, who seized power in a 2021 coup and has installed himself as president. The opposition has accused the junta of using sport for political ends. Georgian police fired tear gas to try to disperse thousands of pro-EU demonstrators on Monday, rallying in the center of Tbilisi amid a deepening political crisis in the Black Sea nation. The country's prime minister hours earlier had vowed no negotiations with the opposition. Enraged by the ruling Georgian Dream Party's decision to shelve EU accession talks after it claimed victory in an election they decried as fraudulent. The Caucasus country of some 3.7 million has been rocked by turmoil since the 26 October parliamentary elections. The Georgian Dream are facing accusations of betraying the country's long-standing ambition of joining the EU and of moving Tbilisi closer to Moscow. Opposition lawmakers are boycotting the country's parliament, and the pro-EU president is seeking to throw out the election results in the Constitutional Court. Prime Minister Irakli Kobakize refused any potential negotiations with the opposition, as Monday marked 5 consecutive nights of clashes between protesters and riot police outside the parliament in central Tbilisi. A U.S. judge on Monday upheld her decision to reject Elon Musk's massive $55.8 billion compensation package at Tesla, denying an attempt to restore the pay deal through a shareholder vote. In a court filing, Chancellor Kathleen McCormick of Delaware's Court of Chancery ruled that Tesla's attempt to ratify Musk's compensation package through a June shareholder vote could not override her January decision, striking down the package as excessive and unfair to shareholders. Now, McCormick found multiple flaws in Tesla's ratification attempt, including material misstatements in documents provided to shareholders about the effect of their vote. The court also awarded $345 million in attorney fees, significantly less than $5.6 billion requested by the lawyers of plaintiff Richard Tornetta, a Tesla shareholder. In a statement on Musk's ex-social media platform, Tesla said it would appeal the verdict, and Musk insisted he played a role in coming up with the package nor discussed his deal with the board members, who ultimately signed off on it. The Delaware Court in Chancery has been a pillar of U.S. capitalism for more than a century and is the jurisdiction where roughly 2/3 of American Fortune 500 companies are registered. For the people in Ghana, the electoral promises to pull the country out of a serious economic crisis will tip the balance in the presidential election on 7th December. President Akufo-Addo's second term was marked by an acute economic crisis, inflation, and weak currency that forced a $3 billion deal with the International Monetary Fund to manage Ghana's debt loan. The management of the economy will be the key when the people vote to replace President Nana Akufo-Addo, who steps down after 2 terms in office. An oil, gold, and cocoa producer with a history of political stability, Ghana was an investor favorite. However, the economic turmoil and debt default dented the country's repeal. Inflation peaked at 54.1% in 2022 before easing to 23.2% by late 2023. But many Ghanaians still struggle with high costs, triggering sporadic protests over government policies. A depreciating cedi currency and mounting poverty have further strained public confidence in their leadership. Government's attempts to raise funds through treasury bills have faltered, with investors shunning what they once considered as a safe haven market. Thousands of Volkswagen workers went on strike Monday in an escalating industrial dispute, with unions warning that the crisis-hit German auto giant is intent on making mass layoffs and closing factories. The union announced that at the weekend that industrial action would get underway with a series of warning strikes after the company last week had rejected the union's proposals for protecting jobs. Waving signs reading, "You want war? We are ready," and the red flags of the powerful IG Metal Union. Employees at plants across the country walked out over management plans to make huge cuts. VW has been hit hard by high manufacturing costs at home, a stuttering shift to electrical vehicles, and tough competition in key market China. The VW Group, which owns 10 brands from Audi and Porsche to Skoda and Seat, said it respects workers' rights and believes in constructive dialogue in a bid to reach a lasting solution that is collectively supported. IG Metal and the Works Council have fought to protect jobs since VW announced in September that it was weighing the unprecedented step of shutting some plants in Germany, where it has around 120,000 employees.
Melaksanakan misi, mempertahan maruah, mencipta secara setia pertemuan, takkan jenta dengan asalkan membuat peluang terus tegakkan satu perjuangan, satu suara akan direncana di dadanya, memburu angka keaduan, kekuatan bicara.
Kicking off our sports segment this afternoon, the clash between two Southeast Asian giants, Johor Darul Takzim JDT and Buriram United, is set to be enormous, as both teams are looking to improve their position in the East Zone.
Tomorrow is a very important game. We need to get the 3 points. For this reason, we need to show our football, because in this Champions League, in my opinion, JDT is very competitive. We are playing very, very well. But this is football and we need to continue growing.
Maybe it's the best team in Thailand against the best team in Malaysia. So it's going to be a big game. Looking forward to play at home. So then tomorrow we want to win. We want to take the 3 points. We have a good advantage that we are playing at home with our people, our fans.
Meanwhile, for Buriram United, they will treat the match against JDT as a final.
Johor and Buriram, in these respective countries, they are fighting for one good position in Asia, in this side of the Asia. It's really important for both clubs to be in the next round. I think both clubs, they are doing a good job to create better conditions for football, Malaysian football, Thailand football, and this we need to support this for this moment.
Defender Dion Coles, who is also the Harimau Malaya skipper, was quickly to remind his teammates of JDT's wealth of talent and their fast-paced style of play.
We'll know that it's a big game as well as players, but we are playing for 3 points, and the essential key point. Of course, who comes on top of this game, you can crown as the king of Southeast Asia, but the essential part of this game is to get 3 points and set ourselves in a good position to qualify for the next round.
ASEAN Football Federation AFF has named AirAsia as their exclusive official travel partner for their 4 major national team and club events. The 4 events, ASEAN Cup 2024, ASEAN Club Championship Cup, ASEAN Women's Championship, and ASEAN Under-23 Championship, are collectively branded as ASEAN United FC. AFF President Major General Kiev Samet said the collaboration could potentially expand the football network in the Southeast Asian region.
The simple thing is about connectivity. I flew AirAsia many times. Easy to connect to the region. That is the most important one.
This collaboration also reflects the brand's commitment to supporting the development of regional talents and aspiring athletes, showcasing ASEAN's rich potential on and off the field.
We've always been very involved in sports, and our main aim is really to showcase, again, like I mentioned earlier, on what ASEAN has to offer, which is why in the past, when we had activations, we did a lot of coaching clinics and so on to really engage the youth as well, because we really want to show that ASEAN has so much to offer in terms of young talent. So whether it is specific to Malaysian football.
Over in Riyadh, Cristiano Ronaldo watched on from the stands as already qualified Al Nassr lost for the first time in this year's Asian Champions League Elite as they were beaten 2-1 in injury time by Qatar's Al Sadd on Monday. He was reportedly rested for the fixture in Riyadh, given the Saudi club had secured their place in the knockout stages last week with 3 rounds of the group phase remaining. In Jeddah, Al Ahly were held to a 2-2 draw at home to Istiqlal on Monday. The Iranians took the lead twice, firstly through Brazilian defender Rafael Silva, who finished off a well-worked free-kick routine just before the break, and again from a Muhammad Hossein Eslami volley shortly after the restart. On both occasions, however, England's international striker Ivan Toney converted from the penalty spot to draw the hosts level. Istiqlal were reduced to 10 men in the 81st minute after Eslami was shown a straight red card for a stamp on fullback Saad Balobaid's leg, but they held on to leave Jeddah with a point. Al Ahly boasted a perfect 5 wins from 5 before Monday's match and had already ensured qualification for the knockout stage, but the draw sees them remain top of the West Asia standings with 16 points. Istiqlal, meanwhile, sit 8 with 5 points, occupying the last qualification spot at least until Tuesday, with Al Gharafa still to play Al Hilal and Pak Takur taking on Al Ain. New Inter Miami coach Javier Mascherano arrived in Florida on Monday to begin his spell in charge of the Major League Soccer side. Mascherano, who has a contract until 2027, will be linked up with old teammate Lionel Messi, who captains the team. The 40-year-old has left a role coaching Argentina's youth teams, including the Under-23 side at the 2024 Olympic Games. Inter Miami will be the first experience in club football management for Mascherano, nicknamed the Little Boss. In addition to Messi, he will also be managing other former Barca teammates, including Uruguay's Luis Suarez and Spain's Jorge Alba and Sergio Busquets. The MLS side were left without a coach when Gerardo Tata Martino stepped down from his role, citing personal reasons. Miami topped the MLS regular season standing and won the Supporters' Shield with a record 74 points in 34 games, but were knocked out of the MLS Cup playoffs earlier this month. Dutch long-distance runner Sifan Hassan and Botswana sprint sensation Litsele Tebogo were named World Athletes of the Year at the 2024 World Athletics Awards in Monaco. Now, with the Olympics serving as the pinnacle of the sporting year, Hassan and Tebogo's performances in Paris were pivotal to their recognition. Hassan made history by becoming the first woman to win medals in the 5,000 meters, 10,000 meters, and marathon at a single Olympics. The 31-year-old clinched gold in the marathon with an Olympic record time of 2 hours, 22 minutes, 55 seconds, just 37 hours after earning bronze in the 10,000 meter and 6 days after her 5,000 meter bronze. This remarkable achievement places her alongside Emil Zatopek, who won medals in these three events at the Helsinki Games in 1952. Tebogo, meanwhile, became Botswana's first ever Olympic champion by winning the men's 200 meter with an African record of 19.46 seconds. The 21-year-old also played a key role in helping Botswana secure silver in the men's 4x400 meter relay in Paris. Tebogo dipped under 20 seconds in the 200 meter 9 times this season, demonstrating exceptional consistency.
76 minit tanpa henti. 76 minutes non-stop. Transparent and concise. Paparan komprehensif, ringkas dan padat. Saksikan Kanta 744, 7.44 malam. Berita perdana 8 malam. Malaysia Tonight, 8:30 p.m.
And with that, we've reached the end of this afternoon's bulletin. In our top story today, Syrian rebels take control most of Aleppo city following surprise offensive campaign. Now do join us again tonight at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM, or you can stream us on RTM Clicks website and mobile app. Till then, I'm Otto Hoffman. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thanks for watching.